Hi everyone, it's Beth Rolls with Family Being. I'm a parent coach, parent educator, and today I wanted to offer a free mini series based on my workshops, Fearless Parenting. This one is specifically on separation anxiety at drop-off, but it really contains the core introduction to Fearless Parenting. So even if this separation anxiety isn't an issue for you, you might find it really helpful. So thanks for watching. We're going to take about 30 minutes to go through these slides. We're going to talk about fear in parenting, how fear plays out for adults, born fearless, fight or flight, common fears, becoming fearless, finding answers, making decisions. When fear is real, tools to ease separation anxiety, let them change the world, and giving this gift to your child. So let's start off with fear in parenting. How does it show up? So what I want to talk about here is really identifying how fear plays into parenting, because I think so many of us don't even realize that it's such a big factor. So here's an example, a little quiz for you. Sally is the mom. She has to work today and her shift starts at 8 a.m. Her son Billy is 4 years old and goes to preschool 10 minutes away. Work is 15 minutes from there. It's 7:30 and Billy still isn't dressed. Sally is frustrated and yells that he better get dressed right now or else. So who hasn't been there? I mean, we've all been there, I think, especially if you work, even if you don't work, anytime you have somewhere to go, it's hard to get these little kids dressed. So where's the fear for Sally right up to this point? Is it A, Billy doesn't listen to Sally, B, Sally's going to be late for work and lose her job, C, breakfast is going to be cold, or D, Billy will never learn how to get dressed on his own? It could be any of these things, but the driving fear is B, Sally's going to be late for work and lose her job. When you think about it, security is the #1 fear for all of us. So having money and what that means for us is going to be behind a lot of the decisions that we make, and a lot of the fear that we have. Security is huge for us. That's why we get married. It's, we'll go into it more, but the main driving fear is her getting to work on time and not losing her job. But then Billy also has fear. So is he afraid of not being able to play, getting dressed maybe too hard for him still, going to school and seeing his teacher? Or school means having to say goodbye to his mom. That's it. School means having to say goodbye to his mom. So transitions for kids mean goodbye. Transitions like getting dressed and going to school or putting on pajamas at bedtime are difficult because they mean having to say goodbye to mom or dad. Kids will resist this goodbye, especially if they haven't had a chance to spend meaningful time with their parent before the goodbye, or if they're too young to understand that their parent will return. So what could mom have done differently? Well, she could have woken up early enough. I know it's hard, but if she wakes up early enough, she can give them time to connect and not be rushed and running late during it. So if you think about it, if we know that we have some extra padding to sit in the chair and snuggle, or to play a little game with them, or even to read a book, these things will go a long way towards making the overall transition out the door much, much easier. So here's another example. The family just finished eating dinner out, and Molly is trying to put her son Mark in his car seat so they can go to a store 1 block away for something she needs. But he's looking around at toys on the floor of the van. She's fine waiting, but then her husband Joe yells, "Just strap him in." Molly starts thinking and then pushes him into his seat firmly and says, "I asked you to sit down." He starts crying and she feels miserable. So what's the fear for Molly right up to this point? Is it that she's afraid of Joe, her husband? Is she afraid that she won't get what she needs from the next store? Is she afraid that she's not firm enough with her son? Or is she afraid of others' judgment about not being firm enough with her son? Well, this is actually an example from my life. And it's D. She's afraid of others' judgment about not being firm enough with her son. If you remember from the example, she was totally fine waiting, giving her son some space until her husband said something. And then I wrote, she starts thinking. Yeah. So once she started thinking about it, she was thinking about the judgment. So our last example, so it's bedtime, and Sarah's husband just gave the kids a bath, and it's her turn now to read stories and cuddle before bed. Her daughter Riley is dancing all around, avoiding anything to do with bedtime. She looks at her watch and it's already 8:45. It's been a long day. Frustrated, she yells at her to sit down for stories or she's leaving and Riley will have to go to sleep by herself. So what's Sarah's fear right up to this point? Is she afraid her daughter will be tired and crabby tomorrow? Is she afraid she's messing up this parenting thing and Riley will never listen to her? Or she isn't afraid at all, it's just bedtime. Or could she be afraid that she won't get any time for herself after this long, long day doing everything for the kids? And yeah, that's exactly it. Self-care is huge, and when we are running on empty, there is literally nothing more to give. Bedtime is one of those times where you should try to take some space for yourself, to do something for yourself. Meditate, go journal, just go have time for yourself before you start the bedtime routine, because by the end of the day, we are depleted. And you want to, as my friend Susie Lula says, you always want to give from an overflow. So that's the thing. Our fears at bedtime are not about our kids. We know that they're not going to sleep with us when they're in college. It's the fact that we are just completely wiped out. We want to go to bed. We want time for ourselves. Often bedtime is the time when we get that. In the same example, what was the daughter's fear? Was she afraid of not getting enough time to dance, having to go to sleep, saying goodbye to her mom after such a fun day, or monsters in her closet? Well, again, if you remember, transitions mean goodbye. So she's had this great day with her mom, and she just doesn't want it to end. She's not dancing around because she suddenly has that energy and wants to dance. She knows that it's delaying the process. She doesn't want to say goodbye to her mom. My recommendation with something like this would be to have a cot always set up or a mattress on your floor in your bedroom and say, well, you know, if you really don't want to sleep in your bed, you're welcome to come sleep in this. My experience with my own daughter, who's 4, is that she might lay there for a little bit and then realize that it's not really that exciting. Mom's going to bed anyway, and she'll go back to her bed where it's more comfortable. Okay, so now let's talk about how fear plays out for adults. Is it only in parenting? Where else do we see this fear come up? So a lot of us have fear in changing our job. We stay in jobs that aren't a good match because we fear the unknown. Financial security, like I said, is huge. Losing benefits, failure. We will literally stay in a job where we are miserable just because it's comfortable. We have so much fear of the unknown. We have fear in relationships. We stay in relationships that aren't serving us because we're afraid we can't survive without the second income. We'll mess up our kids. We'll never find someone else. The unknown, failure. We have these houses. We build these lives together. And then when the relationship stops serving us, we're just too afraid to leave and figure out how to start over, basically. So if we didn't have any of these concerns about security, then, you know, we would probably not stay in these relationships that are just no good for us anymore. We have fear in moving. This one applies to me. So we hate the cold, but we won't move to a warmer location because, again, we're afraid of financial security, the move itself, making our kids unhappy, making a big change. How safe is the neighborhood? What are the schools like? What are the people like? Will we make new friends? Like, even if we have the opportunity to move to paradise, will we necessarily take it? I mean, there's lots of fears that can pop up when you leave what you know behind. Fear in politics. Of course. I mean, make America great again. That implies it's not already great. So that implies there's fear there. We may be afraid of others taking our money, our guns, our religion, our jobs, hurting our family, anything that feels like a perceived threat to who we are and what we love. So with politics, we really should be thinking about how can we support and serve everybody and what's for the greatest good of all of us. And really, fear shouldn't be in that picture. Fear in health. We cautiously tiptoe through life, afraid to get seriously injured, contract a disease, be overweight or be underweight, be exposed to germs, die in a car accident. There's all kinds of fear in the health industry. And of course, fear in religion. We're afraid of sinning, going to hell, not getting into heaven, judgment from a higher power, rejection from our church, not obeying the Bible, judgment from others. Really, religion has just swooped up all kinds of fear to, it's really a control thing. So not that I am telling anyone one thing is better than the other, but if you look at what most of religion is, you're going to find a lot of fear. So let's talk about born fearless. How much do our kids fear? Our children are born with only the fear they need to survive. Our children come knowing they need someone to love them, feed them, and keep them safe. Every time we respond to their cries, we assure them that the world is a safe place. We attend to their needs the best we can and love them to pieces. So basically, if we don't respond to those cries, then we eventually create a fearful adult because those things are stored in our memory. When they learn that the world's not safe, they're going to go out as adults that perceive the world as not being safe. Every other fear is taught to them by us. In those early 0 to 6 programming years, we have all these beliefs and ideas about the world, and we tell them, don't do this, be careful, don't do that, I don't want you to get hurt. And we teach them a lot of fear. So what is fear? Fight or flight, your body on fear. This is what happens in our body when we go into fear. Our amygdala, which is part of the limbic system in our brain, sounds the alarm. The hypothalamus triggers our sympathetic nervous system, and then the adrenal glands flood the body with a hormone called cortisol and raise our heart rate and blood flow with adrenaline. We developed this as a survival skill because our ancestors are the ones that survived. This originally saved us if we were running from a real threat, but today it can be triggered by anything from an alarm clock to a screaming child, even if the threat isn't real. Cortisol lowers your immune system, increases your blood sugar, and shuts down digestion, as well as your libido and ovulation. So that's a big point for all of you wannabe mamas that are trying to get pregnant. Like I was, I tried for 3 years, but in a constant state of stress, your body's not even ready to make a baby. Worse, it keeps us in this state until the perceived threat is gone, and the body may not return to normal for 4 hours. This is a big deal because melatonin decreases, makes it hard to sleep, and oxytocin, the love hormone, which we also need for breastfeeding, decreases, meaning we'll have a hard time feeling strong attachments to those around us, as well as just living in a state of love rather than fear. And overproduction of these hormones create what we call low-frequency states, such as anger, fear, envy, hatred, and aggression, which lead to a sense of frustration, anxiety, insecurity, sadness, depression, and hopelessness. So think about it. Just one little trigger can throw you into this state, and then your body's there. So what if you are triggered in the morning, and then when you pick them up from school and then at bedtime, we can literally always be in a state of stress. So let's talk about common fears. What's your parenting look like on fear? Where does it show up? I'm not making enough milk is one of the first ones, especially for breastfeeding moms. And if you're not breastfeeding, then it's, oh my God, when are they hungry? And what do I do with this newborn? I should stay home with the kids. What school should I send them to? Is the babysitter okay? My husband isn't responding to their needs. Are they safe in the car? Are they eating the right amount? Don't touch that. You'll get hurt. I don't get any time for me. The list goes on and on and on. Basically, it shows up everywhere. But there are only two basic emotional states, love or fear. Really, everything that we feel is basically one of these two. So fear-based emotional states are shame, humiliation, guilt, blame, apathy, despair, grief, regret, anxiety, fear, disappointment, longing, anger, hate, scorn, and entitlement. Those are just some of them. And love-based emotional states are things like hopeful, courageous, trusting, surrendered, willing, optimistic, accepting, forgiving, understanding, empathetic, love, reverence, joy, peace, bliss, and enlightenment. If you think about it, when was the last time that you felt one of those feelings? When did you have a state where you were just hopeful or trusting? When did you feel joy? So much of our lives are spent in fear, and that just grows and grows and grows in our world. And when we're in a state of fear, our world is fearful. When we're in a state of love, our world is loving. So Gary Zukov in The Seat of the Soul says the human emotional system can be broken down into roughly two elements, fear and love. Love is of the soul. Fear is of the personality. So let's talk about becoming fearless. How do we get out of this state? How do we save our bodies and save our world? What we need to do is enter rest and digest mode. So one thing you can do is prevent the fight or flight response in the first place by changing your thoughts and staying in the now. That means this moment. It means we're not living in the future, we're not living in the past, we're not thinking about all the things we need to do, we're not thinking about all the things people have done to us, we're not thinking about what other people might be thinking, we're just living right here, right now, what's happening now. So acceptance of the as is, so that's just the facts. What is happening right now? Not what is my story about it, what is happening right now. Then action. What do I need to do next? What is the solution? What are the specific steps I need to do for this? Do I need to do anything? Or do I just need to accept that this is what it is? A big thing is to meditate, because you'll gain power over that part of your brain. And meditation also releases, remember we just talked about all the things that the stress response does. So meditation releases melatonin, which helps us sleep, serotonin, which balances our mood, dopamine, which makes our brains feel like they're being rewarded, and oxytocin, which is love. For our kids, what do we need to do when they're stressed out? Comfort them. Be there, be supportive, be quiet for the most part. Say, I understand, comfort them, let them know it's okay. Again, go back to number one, talk about what are the facts of what happened, and then talk about the action steps. You don't go into a story with them or interfere with them as well. You just want to be a loving rock for them. Another good thing to help you with stress is to eat your fruits and veggies, because processed foods, and especially sugar, make us feel lousy, moody, and tired. So it's kind of like creating our own sources of stress, because our body reacts to those foods in a similar way as it does to stress. So if we want to be at our peak level, we can eat foods as close to their natural state as possible. We call them live foods. They make you feel fantastic. So your berries, your bananas, apples, carrots, try not to cook these foods if you can. Put out whole foods and trays for your kids to eat. These are wonderful, and eat sugar, flour, and processed foods sparingly because, again, they put us in that really lousy mood, and it's best to just avoid them. Cakes, candies, ice cream, you know what they are. Try to stay away from them. Another really important thing is just to move your body. So our unexpressed emotions, let's say we get really stressed, but we try to just power through it and be strong and move on. Basically, we're shutting off our channels that feel. So those unexpressed emotions get stored in the body. They actually can cause joint pain, backaches, lots of physical ailments. But if you move your body, you will get them out. And yoga is really good for doing this. Walking helps too. You'll actually talk or hear people talk about having an emotional release in yoga. People will be doing yoga and just start crying. That's just old emotion moving out. That's it. And the other benefit of yoga is that you're put in really stressful situations. Like I remember when I was starting, and just standing on one foot was super challenging to do. But you have the guidance of the teacher who's really gentle and calm and reminding you to breathe. And that helps you get used to this being in the stressful situation, but not reacting to it and just knowing that you'll survive it. So reframe exercise, something that you do to lose weight. Like a lot of times we shame ourselves about not doing enough exercise. Just something that you do to move energy and keep your body in a high vibrational state. It's a gift that you give to yourself. Try to think of it that way, as a gift. And then you can also just make a mindset shift. You know, the other day I started to get upset about something when I was driving home. And I just all of a sudden thought, what could I do for somebody else today? I wonder what homeless people are experiencing today. It was really, really cold and snowy. Like, what could I do for somebody today? Just taking that, I think Tony Robbins is the one that says that we're obsessed with ourselves. Just taking that view off yourself and thinking about somebody else is super powerful. It helps you put things in perspective, but I think it's just a really good way to get out of the story, because you can go, oh yeah, this happened to me, but wow, there's somebody having a really hard time today. Something's really going wrong in their world. They have a kid with cancer. Somebody just died. Something awful is happening for them. I shouldn't say awful, but something really challenging is happening for this person. What could I do to make their life a little bit better? And then also, the same kind of thread, focus on gratitude. What are you thankful for? It could only be the next breath of air that you take. That could be it, but that's huge. You're alive. You have clean air to breathe. This one is easy for me to do, the health of your kids. And if you have a sick kid like I have had this week, it's so easy to go, wow, I really took for granted all the days that they were really healthy and happy, and now they're just miserable, and you just want to take that away from them. So thinking about the health of your kids is huge. Oh, I've got all these bills, but wow, I've got the money to pay these bills. That's big. You know, I've got a sink to clean. I've got clothes to wash. I've got heat to be warm in the house. I've got gas for my car. You know, it's cold outside, but it's sunny today. It's a beautiful day. I've heard that if you write down 3 things you're grateful for every morning, it'll change your life. But I really challenge you to do this all throughout the day. Whenever you're doing almost anything, you can be thankful that you have it, thankful that you have the ability to do it. There's just so many things you can be thankful for. So let's talk about finding an answer. So I'm going to help you identify your fear. One way is to ask, what am I really worried about right now? So the next time you start to get frustrated with your child or worried about the situation, ask yourself, what am I really worried about right now? Keep going until you find the big fear. It often starts with because they or I should, but you might find something else if you go even deeper. So that's really big. What am I worried about right now? And let's talk about making decisions, because fear comes up in making decisions all the time. So how do we make choices that serve our child? The question there is, does it serve their highest self? Now, their highest self is their formless self, their soul, where they came from, the formless essence of who they are. But you can also think of them just as an adult. So what is the choice right now, that will best serve them as an adult? So hint number one, it's not a fearful choice. It's not going to be a choice based on fear. And number two is it's best for them, not you. A lot of times in parenting, choices with our kids are just inconvenient for us, but we want to make a choice that's best for them, that doesn't serve our ego. Hint number three, it has nothing to do with your experience. If you had a terrible time in school, that should have nothing to do with your choice for them, because that's not their experience. I mean, there could be issues that you have to overcome, and we'll talk about that later. But when you even think about sending them to school in the first place, you should not do it just because you had a bad experience with it. Hint number four, it serves their basic needs, which are being seen, being heard, and feeling worthy. And hint number five is it gives them the skills they'll need to live on their own as an adult. This one's huge because a lot of young adults right now are going off to college and they are clueless about how to take care of themselves. So anytime you can back off and give them that independence to make their own choice and their own decision and to learn a life skill, that's our job as parents. That's what we're here to do. But then let's talk about when fear is real, because we also need to trust ourselves. So this system, the system of fight or flight, is set up to protect us originally. So when something doesn't feel right, look right, or sound right, you need to investigate further. I actually wrote about the abuse case with Larry Nassar recently, and that was all about this, where those kids and their parents didn't trust themselves enough to go, this just doesn't feel right, they might have, some of them took their word as a doctor, but you really need to hone the ability to trust yourself and to know when it's coming from a story or when it's coming from a true fear that this is not serving you. So if your child's old enough, let's say they don't want to go to school. If your child's old enough, you can ask them about their concerns. Try to get to the bottom of it when things are calm, not when they're emotional in the morning and saying they don't want to go to school. Maybe at night, at bedtime, or some other time when everybody's quiet and you think they'll be open to talking. If they're younger, you can use puppets or toys to play school and see what comes up. So you can kind of act out those situations, just drop off, or like lunchtime or something they're doing. You could be the teacher and interact with the puppet that represents them. Just see what they say, because a lot of times it's a really good way to find information. You could also drop in unexpected to observe at the school. When my daughter was in her first daycare, I went there every day at lunchtime, and let me tell you, I saw a lot. And all I could think was, if I was only here at drop-off and pickup, I would think the school's great. But I saw it at lunchtime, and it wasn't. And I moved her out, and now she's in a wonderful place. Also, ask the teacher about your child and their day. Do they perk up as soon as, like right after you leave, does the child perk up? Or do they cry throughout the day? How does the teacher handle undesired behavior? Is she putting them in timeouts? Is she threatening them? Is she shaming them? Ask her what she does. You could even give her a scenario. The staff should be equally concerned about your child's well-being as you are. If you have repeated concerns or just feel strongly that this is not the right fit, don't be afraid to go somewhere else. center yourself, calm your mind, meditate, and check in. Ask yourself, like literally, I'll write myself a letter, like, dear highest self, I'm concerned about this. What should I do? You'll get a lot of wisdom that way. So here are some tools to ease separation anxiety, especially for young kids, which is what I specialize in. Obviously, separation anxiety should diminish by about 6 years old. So it begins around 7 to 8 months old and doesn't end until between 5 and 6 years old. It's strongest between 10 and 18 months. So for young babies, you can try to establish a lovey or an object they can associate with you. A product I talk about a lot is called I think it's called a Snoodle, Snoedel. They actually use it with preemie babies a lot. It's made out of wool, so it will retain your scent, like if you were to sleep with it or put it under your shirt for a while. So that is helpful for the baby to smell your scent and know you're going to be back. You can also allow them to bring toys from home. These transition objects just help them know that they are going home and that you will be back. They can bring something of yours even, but if they grab a toy while they're going out the door, let them do that. You also can role play going to school and coming back. Again, you can use dolls or puppets just to go through the scenario, let any fears they may have come up, help them know what to do. They'll feel more comfortable once they know exactly how it should look and what will make it successful. Also, what it looks like when you leave, when you walk out the door. Talk about going to work, show what you do at work, and then coming back and how excited you are to pick them up and see them again. A really important thing for younger children is to follow a consistent routine. Toddlers do not understand time. If you say, I'll be back at 4, that's great. They have no clue what you're talking about. So find the part of their day, because at school they should have a consistent routine, where you'll be back, and then say, I'll pick you up after snack, for instance, or after you go to the gym. And then, of course, allow them to feel their emotions. Just like we as adults should feel our emotions so they don't get stuck in our body, they should feel their emotions and just be supported and kind of coached by you. Don't distract them with food, ask them to stop, or lie to them. You always want to soothe them with cuddles at home and encourage them to soothe an upset baby or toy, which helps them develop the ability to self-soothe. Teachers should also be cuddling them when they are upset, offering hugs, a place on their lap, carrying them, etc. My daughter does really well if we do, I call it a soft handoff for some reason, but like if I'm holding her and then the teacher can hold her for a minute, that goes a long way in making drop off much, much better, especially for those babies that are really into that physical affection. You want to make sure that the teacher can offer that to them right away. For restless older children, you want to soothe them at home with active cuddling. So if they're into it, you could wrestle. They won't sit on your lap and be soothed that way. Then you want to get in there and roll around with them, kind of roughhouse a little bit and make it a little bit more challenging each time, but mostly, just let them win. If they're old enough to read, you can write notes in a journal that they take to school, and they can write back to you as well. And remember that structure and routine create comfort. Know that emotions will be high during times of teacher or room transitions. So think about when you were at a new job or had a new boss or something, how uncomfortable it is at first. Know that those times will be challenging, and you may need to spend some extra time with your kids during those periods until they feel more comfortable in the situation. Always say goodbye to them. Don't sneak out. You hear such conflicting advice about this, but it's really important that they get a goodbye from you, that they know you're going to return, and that they can watch you leave. Don't try to distract them during that process. And always assure them again that you'll come back, and you can let them keep something of yours, like a necklace or whatever is age appropriate for them to keep, a scarf, something like that. But remember, I can give you all these tools, but the most important thing, what I'm trying to get across with this training, is that you aren't in a state of fear. When you leave them at school, you should feel confident that either the choice is because you need that time for yourself, you need that time to work, or because they are learning at the school and it serves their highest self. I know that when my kids are home, inevitably they end up on a screen at some point. I'm distracted because there's things I need to be doing for work. I can't always sit and play with them the whole day. At school, they're in an environment that supports them with friends to play with, trusted, loving caregivers that they can confide in. They're getting exposed to lots of wonderful activities and learning. You've got to know in your head before you even walk in that door that this is the best thing for them. So like I said, it doesn't matter what tool or technique you use to ease separation anxiety if you walk into the building with any fear about separating. You must be confident in why they are there. You must trust that they can do hard things, and you also need to trust that you can do hard things. Your energy is the most important part of drop-off. Have a loving energy the whole time through, from going, even pulling into the parking lot, until you walk out the door. Sometimes when I get to school, if I feel like something's just off, I'll play some upbeat music that they really love, and we'll just kind of dance in the car for a little bit before we get out, because that shifts our energetic state up to a higher frequency where we feel more loving and confident. It does wonders for the whole process. So, come on, moms and dads, let them change the world. What would the world look like if our kids were fearless? Jobs on love. Our children will choose jobs that are in alignment with their authentic selves, that allow them to fulfill their passions, spend time with their families, and express what they feel they're here to express. They aren't afraid to be vulnerable, take risks, or leave jobs that don't honor their worth. Relationships on true love. Our children will feel worthy and attract partners that also honor their worth without ownership or control. They'll be able to set and hold personal boundaries and leave relationships that don't serve them. They'll look for relationships that allow them to grow rather than partners that make them feel secure. Living in love. We talked about moving. Our children will wander and explore this beautiful planet. They won't be attached to their home or belongings or jobs or circumstances. They'll live in an environment that fills them up and brings them joy. With health and love, often disease and other physical ailments are a sign that we are living in fear. They are a result of not being authentic, constant stress, anxiety, depression, etc. Our children will realize their ability to prevent and heal illness just by honoring the bodies they've been given and caring for themselves, learned by our own example of self-care. Politics on love. Our children will make a huge difference in our world when they lead from a state of love rather than fear. Fear creates judgment, which creates violence, and greed, which creates destruction. Our children will enjoy a peaceful, healthy planet. And religion on love. When you remove fear from religion, all you have is love. So, giving this gift to your child. Fearless parents make fearless kids. Most importantly, be aware of the gift you give your child when you step out of fear. Showing them to trust, be abundant, and be full of love helps your kids learn the same, so they go through life in a state of love rather than fear. They can't depend on someone else to always make them feel safe. It must come from within. They're learning this from you. Remember, our children benefit from the added love and connection of peers and teachers. They need that in their lives to be strong on their own and to be loved by and love others. It's not unhealthy for them to go to school. It's unhealthy for them to have a parent that is in a state of fear. So go out there and be fearless. You've got this, mama. Now go show your child how it's done. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for sticking with me for 40 plus minutes. You can find me at familybeing.com, and I'd love to help you become the fearless mom you've always wanted to be. Have a wonderful day.